Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first quarter meeting for the Westfield Building Corporation. John, would you call a roll for quorum?
Ron Moore.
Here.
Steve Latour.
Here.
Larry Colino. You have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda was to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Within those minutes were contained the adoption for 2023 meeting schedule that was proposed for Tuesday at 10 a.m. In discussions with folks at the city. That seemed like everyone had a conflict, so we moved it to Wednesday, first or second Wednesday of each quarter. Outside of that, I have no other, and that should be included in this one. While that reflects that's what we actually approved originally, I'm saying that we need to take a look at that. Do we need to approve that?
The change in the meeting schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should.
Okay. John.
I'll make a motion to change the meeting schedule to be quarterly on Wednesday.
I'll second that.
Ron Moore.
Yes.
Steve Latour.
Yes. Aye.
Motion passes.
Having said that, and having read this, I have no other questions for the, do you have any comments?
I have none.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes from the December 13th meeting with, as written.
I'll second the motion.
Ron Moore.
Yep, yes.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the election of officers. I'll entertain a motion for how we want the structure to be.
I'll motion to approve Ronald Moore as president, Larry Carino as vice president, and Steve Latour as secretary treasurer.
I'll second that motion.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Ron Moore.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have an update for the Station 81. That would be Chief Gaylor.
Yeah, good morning. Rob Gaylor, Westfield Fire Department. We conducted a meeting yesterday at 2 p.m., our regular scheduled site visit and meeting with the group. And so as up-to-date information as I can get. I was going to have our new GC, Matthew Davis from Hagerman, attend, but he's tied up at another meeting right now. So with the progress or schedule ongoing, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, overhead piping, rough ends are still continuing in the administration section in the apparatus bays. The lights should be dropped in by the end of the week in the admin hall, and installing some ceiling grid and some tile borders on the west end of the administration wing. Have some scupper boxes and some downspouts taking place along the roof to relieve some of the water from the rain, and then some procurement things. Like any project, we run into supply chain issues, and things were going really, really well until recently. And so we are seeing some challenges, but the boiler parts shipped on the 13th. The overhead doors are scheduled to ship here later the month. Our transfer switch that we thought was going to be the biggest delay, we now have a ship date of May 9th. The generator ship date is now July the 18th. And then we have an electrical panel that supplies the administration wing that is scheduled to ship in mid-August. So with that, those are the biggest delays in the project right now. Other than that, the project is really coming along rather well. There's paint on the walls, and we walk through once a week to check progress and see how things are going. They finished a few little odds and ends, cleaning some of the brick and some things like that. And so really excited for the end of the month to see the garage doors go on the front of the apparatus space. Would entertain any questions you guys may have.
Yeah, there's, thank you. So everything's moving along fine with the building itself?
Yes.
What kind of headwinds are you looking at from the standpoint of some of the delays? You mentioned the switch, the generator, and the panel. Is there anything else that's kind of causing delays or disruptions in work?
There currently are, and a lot of that is we've got to get water into the facility to finish up some of the testing on the sprinkler systems and some things like that. And to get water into the building, we have to get the sanitary line done. And if you remember from our December conversation, the sanitary project is a bigger project in scope, and we're ready to move forward with that.
So what kind of conversations have you had, and how is that coming along?
We've had a lot of conversations on design and procurement of processes to do the sanitary line and run that. And we're tidying up some final numbers. I believe, and Mr. Lawler can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we're good with the initial drawing that Citizens presented and are okay to start down that process.
So are there funding needs?
At this time, we don't know. That's what I'm waiting on, is the final numbers on the funding of that project. I requested yesterday that the funding for the project to include the silt fence, the undercutting, and the trail extension to finish out the project. So those are the numbers that they're putting together to give me a hard final number to proceed forward.
Okay, is there a hard date that we have to meet in order to be able to keep the project moving forward?
I don't have a specific date. Have to review the contract. There's some discrepancies. I don't want to say discrepancies. There's different interpretations from us to them on the actual start date when it comes to contract language. So we're working through those details, whether it was supposed to be the term date was July or whether it's September. So we're working through those details. As of now, if we prolong the sanitary and the water project, it is going to have the potential to delay the project even further because there's a wait time that the stuff has to be in the ground before they can move on with any
Okay, so is there
other things.
Okay, so you're working forward with all of those dates?
Yes.
Jeremy, do you have anything to add to that from a city standpoint? Because this is probably going to tie into city sewer or the citizen sewer and water, right?
Yes, and actually there's a reimbursement agreement that's being drafted for a portion of the sewer line, sewer main portion of the project to the tune of $190,000. So that's another thing that's factoring into us not having the cost yet. However, the bond was sized specifically for the building project, and this sewer line was not a part of that, so we will fund it a different way.
Okay.
But yeah, the key right now is keeping those components on track to get the project done, and then we'll work on the details of some of those other things.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Any other
Anything
questions?
Any questions?
I have none.
When do you guys would like to go visit the site?
Pardon me?
When would you gentlemen like to visit the site?
We'd like to visit the site whenever you send us an invitation that it's good and clear and we can come and go.
Okay.
We can come and do it. We would like, what I would kind of like to do is propose in December that we, by CAM, that we make that a public meeting and do that. Is that something that we can do and then we can all go at the same time? Is that right?
Certainly can, yes.
Okay.
If just keeping, I say, notice it as a public meeting, because assuming you would all be there, you would have a quorum, and so
Right.
we would need to do it that way, but yes.
Yeah, understood. So let us know when it's a good time, and we'll see if we can get the people together. Give me a couple, 3 dates, and I'll communicate with everyone so that we can establish a public meeting and come and take a look at this fine firehouse.
Okay, we will do that.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have, let's see, an update from the Old Town Parking Garage, and Justin. Thank you.
Chief didn't have a handout, so this is really appreciated, Justin. No, I'm just kidding.
No pressure there.
Wow, so professional and
Good morning, Justin Moffett with Old Town Companies. My objective today is to give you a high-level overview of where we're at today and where we think we're heading moving forward. Want to make sure to introduce Kimberly Hansen, VP of Operations and Finance, and Curtis Addison, VP of Construction with Old Town. I will be involved. Curtis will probably be more involved in communications related to construction schedule and updates to this body moving forward. Okay. Because I historically have had the direct relationship with this group, I wanted to kind of give you a status on where we're at, but also let you know that the communication is going to transition to Curtis. And that's how every municipal partnership that we're involved in has worked. Primarily, he's the gatekeeper of information with our progress, and so I would just be interpreting for him, and he's a better source for that information once we move beyond the entitlements and the finance and really into the construction cycle.
Justin, just make sure that we get all their contact information so that if we have a question, we can go direct to them. Thank you.
I'm going to kind of walk through just some items and give a little color commentary on them just because they're kind of material to where we're at as of today. We closed our financing for our private financing for the construction. When I say the private uses, I'm referring to the development that the Old Town Company is responsible to, the multifamily, the retail. We have a financing package, if you will, for the public garage, and so I am going to provide a clarification. There is an update on the City of Westfield garage, not the Old Town garage. We have a contractual relationship to get this public asset built, but it is your garage as the City of Westfield, and so we have a partnership to share the use of that. But we have a fiduciary responsibility to follow through on obligations to get this built for the City of Westfield. That said, we closed our financing last October, actually might have been tail end September, and we knew that we had several months of utility relocation, really, efforts to get ready for construction before we actually put a shovel on the ground and start digging. We were hit with a few surprises last fall that for those in the room who know that we've been through a 5-year process with the City of Westfield, I was hopeful that we really had a clear path to victory and success in starting the project. You're probably familiar with the fact that as the NDOT 32 design work was progressing, there was a historic district formed in downtown Westfield, and I didn't understand that was going to have any impact on us. We had been working on what's called a 404 permit with Army Corps of Engineers to encapsulate the legal drain. We had done all that work in partnership with the City of Westfield and NDOT. NDOT had designed their road to receive connect with our plans. Very coordinated effort, 2-year permitting process. It involved changing FEMA maps, highly detailed process. We thought we were at the tail end of getting that 404 permit in hand, which would allow us to move forward. And then as a final review, the project got flagged because of this historic district. We happen to be the proud owners of an old fire station that is also known as maybe a former town hall. And that resulted in a new process we found out we'd be going through called a 106 process. where local constituencies could identify as interested parties and provide their input on what we should do with this building. So that was definitely a gut punch as we were getting started. And I'll tell you directly what my strategy play was. We learned through different consultants that specialize in this space that this could be a one-year process. And knowing that we couldn't afford to face that, I caved and I offered to preserve the old firehouse and move it. And I knew that that would be an expensive endeavor, but that would be the fastest way to completing the 106 process. And so we did a series of meetings with Indiana Landmarks, the state was involved, DNR, and Army Corps, and we presented a plan where we would acquiesce to the local historic group and repurpose this structure into our food and beverage space. And so I put very strict parameters around what that relationship would look like. I'm not willing to live under anybody else's authority other than my partner, the city of Westfield. But we agreed that we would, if this structure was so darn important, that we would save it. I would tell you in the 5 years we've worked on this, is the first time it came up, though, how important this structure was once this 106 process was presented with us. So we're going to make lemonade, though. We are going to incorporate just the front, maybe 24-foot by 30-foot structure into where we've identified this food and beverage facility. We're going to make it part of the architecture of that building. Hopefully, the win at the end of the day would be that if it's revenue neutral, that we're going to have several $100,000 in moving this structure and preserving it. But hopefully, we'll get a couple $100,000 out of value out of it by incorporating it into our new food and beverage building. Curtis took the lead on the communications with Army Corps, and I would tell you it was kind of a heated process. It was not fun, and if it were up to the other party, they would have stopped our project altogether. It wouldn't have gotten built. There was a letter sent to Army Corps that suggested that we should reconsider the height of the building that had been approved unanimously 7 different times by the city of Westfield Plan Commission. Their suggestion that Army Corps should consider it such an adverse effect on the historic district that the project be rethought altogether. Fortunately, Army Corps, I can't say what their opinion is about us or our project. They just said that's not in their purview. They can't dictate that, but they can mediate an agreement on how we treat the historic firehouse. So sorry for the long-winded explanation there, but that was issue number 1 that we faced that we didn't have any knowledge of when we closed our financing package last fall. Got through it, got our 106 issued, and then subsequently Army Corps released a 404 permit immediately. That 2 years of work was already done. And so now we have a more clear path. We have some obligations, though, to this group through Army Corps, and primarily it's related to the historic firehouse. They do not get to dictate in any way how we repurpose that structure, just that we will repurpose it into our architecture. And if it happens to fall apart when we pick it up and move it, then we have to write a $75,000 check to the local historic preservation group. So that was, in our view, the least amount of damage to our progress by agreeing to those terms. So that really covers A and B, the 106 and the 404. The city of Westfield staff. Yes, sir.
Before you move on from that topic, I'm just, I don't know, shocked or surprised or not surprised.
Couldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, all those things. So is that matter then settled as far as it needs to be at this point?
Yeah, and it has no financial bearing on the Westfield Building Corp.
Okay. Well, fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Having said that, I appreciate the effort that you've had and the explanation you've given for us. And I think if, all considered, you've probably taken the least cost path that's been presented to you. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And I don't want to paint a picture. You can probably sense I'm frustrated, like even talking about it frustrates me. But there is a reality that maybe it is worthy of preservation. Maybe there are people in the community that care a lot about it. Maybe the fire department leadership cares a lot about it. I don't want to say it's not a good move. I just want to say I've been involved in this project for 5 years, and it's the first time it came up. Once there was a gotcha moment, it was exploited, and that's what frustrates me. I'm all about preserving the history of the community when the community really desires it, and we're gonna turn it into something special if it doesn't fall apart when we pick it up. But we're gonna make it a positive.
Or when it's worthy of preserving, yes.
There's that. I was jumping on to see Jeremy Lawler and John Nail have been phenomenal to work with, kind of helping us, stay on path with the permitting side from the city of Westfield. So really have had no issues there. It's a great collaborative partnership. We're appreciative of that. Hamilton County Drainage Board is probably another layer of complication that we faced, and Mark Hirebrandt has been helpful in helping us navigate that. And there is a reality, though, it's complicated, and so that's not, there's no dig at the Hamilton County Drainage Board on that one. We're encapsulating a legal drain and subsequently building a small park over the top of it. We changed FEMA maps that called this floodplain and removed that designation. So that's just complicated work. It's not, the same challenges as the historic issues. So we were on their agenda Monday and then have our final release in April, but that's kind of a non-event. That's just really, process and procedure of moving forward with the project. And that also speaks to E there on the FEMA mapping. We will be under what's called a conditional letter of map revision or amendment for another period of time, but that's okay. That's a normal process. But FEMA has confirmed that the maps are official and they are going to be changed per the agreements with Westfield. And Westfield has taken the lead on that process. That's not been an Old Town process. Our project certainly impacted it, but it's all part of the drainage planning for State Road 32, the drainage shed north, and how it ties in to the big drainage project that's related to Grand Junction Plaza. Also really speaks to F there. We have a series of permits that will be released as we're at different stages of the project. Foundation releases. We'll start with mass grading and all the drainage work, and then foundation permits for the garage, and then all the private construction that happens around it. So go back to the beginning. We have lost probably 60 days at least in the process. Our team has been re-strategizing every week to say, how do we keep not only our project on schedule, but how do we preserve our budget, because we have identified contractors to do this work. That's the danger in this whole equation for us is, we have already felt like we started behind the 8 ball with the fact that because of some of the political turmoil last year at the city of Westfield related to getting to an agreement on releasing these bonds for sale, our bond proceeds went down all year until they finally got sold. And so we started off the project with less proceeds than we would have had we just issued the bonds early in the year. So now our job is to make sure that we preserve our contracts with our bidders so that we don't have a further gap. We think that we're in good shape there, but we're fighting hard to make sure that we can preserve every inch of our schedule. What really matters at the end of the day, I guess there's 2 main topics. One is we want a public garage, and we want it to be available to the public. That is a primary driver. But on the financial side, the other driver is having the tax increment, the tax revenue generated to pay the debt service payments on the bond. And so what I keep impressing upon the team is substantial completion before the end of '24. That's really what matters, so that we have a substantial assessment January 1st of 25, so that it matches the bond schedule that this team's worked on. So we, as of today, we think very high level of confidence that we're on track for that. But I would say it's a disappointment for us that we're not going to deliver the garage earlier in the fall, that we hope to have, use for the citizens. And then for us on the private side, we, now get to start leasing in the middle of winter, which is not great, but, it's life, will move on. We're going to fight through that. And then item 3, next 90 days, we're mobilizing our site contractor in the next few weeks. Have our final drainage board meeting at the county in April, finalizing the next phase of permitting with City of Westfield. And then we will be able to complete the drainage encapsulation project within the 90-day window here between now and our next meeting with you. So if that's not done by the next meeting, we'll be sharing, what the issue is that caused that. But there's no reason for us to think that that won't have been completed. The encapsulation is a pretty substantial project, but a lot of that work's happened off-site. Massive concrete structures. It's basically a tunnel that will be placed on site, and so there was a pretty healthy lead time on those, the fabrication there. We had ordered that, a lot of lead time work. We were able to predict and get those pieces ordered, so they were ready when we were officially released. And then the selective demo, we had started demo of the entire site for what we controlled. NDOT's contractually obligated to demo Ella's pharmacy there, the old pharmacy building. They will be entitled on that soon, if not already. But then we were supposed to demo everything else. So we demoed most of the fire station except the piece that was in question. And then we got a hard hand slap from the state, because that property was in review because of the 106 process, and no one had told us we couldn't take down the pieces that no one cared about. That the building had been added on to multiple times over the years. So we did a hard stop there and paused that until this process was complete. So now that we're kind of in that we have this 106 permit approval, we'll be able to kind of complete the selective demo of the old fire station and then prepare it to be moved, and we have a contractor set up for that. Questions?
Yeah, the people you're talking to for this historical preservation, I'm kind of curious exactly who those people are.
So whenever there's a review process, the state sends out a communication. They lead it, we do not, to different consulting parties. And so City of Westfield would be a consulting party. Indiana Landmarks would be a consulting party. There's I think it's Westfield Preservation Alliance is the local consulting party. And so if anybody raises their hand, they're given a seat at the table. And that's how it should be. I mean, we don't have a disagreement over the process. Some of the frustration was around the timing, and then the suggestion that maybe the project shouldn't happen when we clearly had been in a public process for multiple years.
Yeah. Are these state officials, or are they local officials, or are they officials are they members of a club or
The Westfield Preservation Alliance, just voluntary members. But
Okay.
in Indiana Landmarks is the representation.
Do you have a name for someone local that you're talking with?
I would just point you to the public record on this communication.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeremy Lawler, the question for you, sir. The Preservation Alliance, now that there is a historical group in place, would that authority transfer to them, the mayor's appointed group, or is it still a separate?
So it would be a separate group. The mayor's appointments to the Preservation Commission have not been ratified by the council yet. We also have the Westfield Historical Society, which has been around much longer than either of these groups. So, but Westfield Preservation Alliance is their standalone own group that is not controlled by any governing entity, so I would assume it would still exist as long as the members want to participate.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, Jeremy.
Well, thank you for the update. Thank you for your patience through the process. I can certainly appreciate, not having that information when things got started, so that took a bit of a curve there. It sounds like, as regards to the fire station, though, what I'm hearing is that is a separate issue that is not directly impacting the garage work, and that the garage work is still underway. It's just delayed a little bit.
It really, that's the fun part of all this, because it just happens to be adjacent to, and we were in this encapsulation permit for Waters of the US. They had the ability to cast a wider net. And so truly the garage schedule was collateral damage because of this, this process.
Now, the 32 project's still not going to, according to the minutes we had the last time we met, there still was no impact from the 32 project on the garage project. Is that still true?
That is still true.
Okay,
But it was absolutely critical that we got this encapsulation permit, because it's not just encapsulating it. We're bending the trajectory of the legal drain to the point that it impacts the garage footprint had we not gotten permission. And by the way, if we didn't get the permit, it would throw up, it would impact NDOT's plans. NDOT had designed around our plans, and then where it ties in with what has been previously built on Jersey Street in the park.
And none of the plans for what the parking garage building looks like or anything like that have changed from the last design that was showed to us, or, okay.
No.
Yeah.
Now, I would tell you there was 60 days of tense conversation when I would read memos provided by the consulting parties to DNR Army Corps, suggesting that the scale of the structure was out of place with the character of downtown Westfield, and therefore they should use their authority to have the project revisited. That was pretty unsettling, but it became clear quickly that the state or federal government were not going to involve themselves in local decision making. They pointed that that's not their purview. It was pretty limited.
Okay.
You have a project that's going to wrap around the garage, and all the things you've discussed that aren't part of the garage really impact that part of your project. I appreciate the endeavor you have to continue the project, and look forward to being incorporated into the structure.
Thank you. Thank you for your time this morning, and look forward to giving you rosy, positive, forward-looking updates at our future meetings, where we're able to show you, pictures of our actual construction project progress. And I want to, finish just by saying that, even through some of my frustrations, there's even the group that I, had some frustrations with the Preservation Alliance. There's still some good people in there that care deeply about, the community they live in, and so. My job was to listen well and sort out the information and try to do my best by keeping the project moving forward, but also trying to honor, the opinions in there that I felt like were relevant to the history of Westfield, where we could actually say, hey, that's meaningful. We'll listen to that, and we'll see if we can make a positive impact. And so there a few things came out of that that I think will be good for bridge building. I don't want to cause any more conflict or hostility. That's our goal, is to be peacemakers through this process and be forward-looking and find a path forward. So the team that I have that works with me every day are trained for perseverance, and want to see this come together for a positive for downtown Westfield. So I think you're going to have positive updates, here forward. But I did want to clearly acknowledge some of the challenges we had getting started.
Well, and obviously that could impact some financial things and stuff, so it's important for us to know and understand how we kind of arrived here, just so that we have it on record. So going forward, we'll have Curtis provide these updates as needed. So just making sure. Okay, well, thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. If I can back up for just a minute, when we were talking about the fire station, I'd like to go revisit the financial side of that, and how are we coming along with being on track with that, and a quick report on where we are with the financials for the firehouse, or for the city garage.
Yeah, Ron, the project is I just received Pay App 16, processed it through Huntington, which gives you a current balance in the project of about $4 million. So we're almost done.
So we're 2/3 of the way through?
Yep, and you're looking at, everything pretty much aligns when we review the attached G702 and those documents. Everything aligns with what you're seeing at the site right now.
Okay. And you have records of all that, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And any expenses of coming in for the garage at this point?
No.
No, okay. That's, thank you, I appreciate that. What else do we have? We don't have any additional business or new business, so I guess I take a motion to adjourn.
You can just adjourn, actually.
Okay, well, in that case, then the meeting adjourned at, come on, 10:36. Thank you all for coming.